It's a pleasure to share with you the major findings of the 2007 ISAAA report on the global status of biotech crops, also known as genetically modified crops. I want to acknowledge the three co-sponsors who provided the entire funds for this year's report. The Rockefeller Foundation, based in the US, a foundation that was associated with the Green Revolution that saved 1 billion people from hunger. The Ibercaja Bank in Spain, the fourth largest bank in the country, with headquarters in the region in Spain where biotech maize is grown. And finally, the Fondazione Bussolera Branca, who was interested in sharing information with global society on the status of biotech crops. I would like to focus on three areas. First, the numbers for 2007, the acreage, the number of farmers growing the crops in countries around the world. Secondly, we want to look at impact. What have these crops delivered in terms of benefits? And thirdly, a few remarks about the future prospects in the remaining years of the second decade of commercialization, 2006 to 2015. 2007 was the 12th year of commercialization of biotech crops. And in 2007, the acreage climbed to 114.3 million hectares on a global basis. That is a 12% increase, equivalent to 12.3 million hectares. This makes it the fastest adopted crop technology in recent history in agriculture. But not only did farmers plant more acreage, they also planted varieties with multiple traits, 2 or 3 traits in this case. And if we want to measure more precisely the growth, this is best done by measuring it in trait hectares. This is very similar to looking at air travel and measuring it in passenger miles rather than miles. If we measure it in trait hectares, then the increase is much greater than measuring in hectares. It is equivalent to 22% or 26 million hectares, which means that it's twice the growth rate of 12% when measured in hectares. Over the last 12 years, we have planted 690 million hectares. That's more than 2/3 of 1 billion hectares. What we've seen in 2007 is that we have 12 million farmers using this technology in 23 countries. 2 countries joined the list in 2007. Poland grew BT maize, and Chile, which is a big exporter of biotech crops, planted approximately 28,000 hectares. It is noteworthy that of the 12 million farmers that grew biotech crops in 2007, 11 million of them were in developing countries, mainly in China, where we had 7.1 million farmers planting BT cotton, 3.8 million farmers planting BT cotton in India, 100,000 farmers planting BT maize in the Philippines, and the balance in the other developing countries in the world. So if we look at the adoption on a global basis, what we find is that in 2007, more than half the world's population, equivalent to 3.6 billion people, that's 55% of the global population, lived in the 23 countries that grew biotech crops in 2007. One of the features of 2007 was the strong growth in all continents across the globe. In North America, the acreage grew by 3.1 million hectares, and 37% of that was in fact multiple traits. In Asia, India recorded the biggest growth of any country at 63%, taking the acreage to 6.2 million hectares planted by 3.8 million farmers. In China, growth increased by 9% to take the acreage up to 3.8 million hectares farmed by 7.1 million farmers. In Latin America, Brazil continued strong growth, increasing by 22%, and taking the total acreage up to 15 million hectares. 14.5 million hectares of that was Roundup soybean, and the remaining balance of 500,000 BT cotton. Argentina retained its second position in the global table of biotech crop acreage, and Chile joined as a new country. In South Africa, we continue to see significant growth, a 30% increase over 2006, and notably, most of that growth was in white maize used for food. Finally, in the EU, the number of countries increased to 8, with Poland planting BT maize for the first time. In fact, the increase in the EU generally was 77%, taking it above 100,000 hectares for the first time. At a time when crop prices are soaring and energy prices are skyrocketing, there's no more important a time than to look at the benefits that can accrue from biotech crops. These are principally increasing productivity and decreasing the cost of production. This is extremely important within the context of the Millennium Development Goal for the year 2015, when we as a global society have pledged to decrease hunger and poverty by 50%. Biotech crops have generated benefits in 3 main areas. First, increase in productivity, which drives increase in income. And for the period 1996 to 2006, we are looking at increases in productivity worth $34 billion, $17.5 billion in the industrial countries, and $16.5 billion in the developing countries. Biotech crops have also made a significant contribution to a better environment. Over the period 1996 to 2006, we have saved 289,000 metric tons of pesticides on a global basis. In 2006, we saved 14.8 billion kilograms of CO2, and this was an important contribution in addressing climate change. In fact, that's equivalent to taking 6.5 million cars off our roads. And finally, we have been able to save water, a very important commodity, and to conserve soil, an important contribution to sustainability. For the long term, the most important benefits associated with this technology are likely to be in the social benefits area. In 2007, 11 million resource-poor farmers benefited from this technology in terms of increased income. This was an important contribution to the alleviation of their poverty. It's also noteworthy that welfare benefits are starting to emerge. In a survey of 9,300 cotton households in India, social benefits for women and children living in BT cotton households started to emerge. Women had the benefit of more prenatal visits, more assistance with at-home births, an increase in the number of children enrolled at school, and an increase in the number of children vaccinated. These are important benefits. So if we look at the benefits in their totality, we're looking at increased income and productivity, environmental benefits, and social benefits. These are significant, and there is enormous potential for these to grow in the second decade of commercialization. The future looks encouraging for this technology. By 2015, we expect the number of countries benefiting from this technology to double. We expect the number of farmers that benefit from this technology to increase significantly. And we expect the acreage to increase to approximately 200 million hectares, double of what it is today. More specifically then, the benefits are likely to come from increasing productivity, which will drive increase in income, and this in turn will be an important contribution to the alleviation of poverty and hunger. We expect an important contribution to the environment and to mitigating climate change and to increasing biomass so that in fact you can produce more affordable biofuels. In 2007, the 12th year of commercialization, we witnessed a 12% increase in acreage that benefited 12 million farmers around the world, and 11 million of those were resource-poor farmers in developing countries. That's a significant contribution that we expect to continue in the remaining years of the second decade of commercialization, 2006 to 2015.